morning. When we left off in part 4, we had 4 legs and 2 rungs. I'll just orbit around so you can see how we left off in part 4. Today we're going to do a couple of things. Actually, today we're going to finish the stool. But we're going to do a couple of things to get to that point. One is, if you'll notice, the legs, if we look at the entity info box, are all called legs. They're on the legs layer and they're each a leg. Well, it turns out the legs are actually 2 different legs. This leg is different than this leg simply because of the way the rungs enter the legs. This leg is the same as this leg, and this leg is the same as this leg, but these 2 are different. So what we're going to have to do today is make 2 different legs with the appropriate mortises for the rungs, and then we'll put the seat cover on. So let's get started. The easiest thing to do is to, first of all, choose the leg we want to work on. I'm going to start with this leg right here. And in order to do that, I've got to get the other rung over here. Well, the easy way to do that is to select both rungs, create a rotation point. So I'll use my old rotation point of 6 1/4 inches from the green, 6 1/4 inches from the red. And just to refresh your memory as to why I'm using 6 1/4 inches, the axis, the spacing from leg to leg on both the front and the sides is 12 1/2 inches. So halfway between that 6 1/4. All right, so now I've got this 6 1/4 point. By the way, just to show you that, I can look from the top and you can see that those construction lines create a center point right here. All right, with that center point, I'm going to copy the legs using the control key and the rotate tool. I'm going to copy them 180 degrees. Not 90, but 180. And the reason is I want this rung to end up over here and this rung to end up back here. So I have to rotate 180 degrees. Now if I look at this from the front ISO, I can now work on this leg. First thing I'm going to do is get rid of the seat. I don't need it right at the moment. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select these 3 components. The reason I'm going to do that is, first of all, I want to create the holes in this leg for these rungs. By the way, you notice right now there is no hole. If I got rid of the rungs, there's no hole there. I want to create that hole. And so I'm going to need this rung, and this leg to work on. If I use the intersect faces tool on this leg, I'm going to run into problems. I know that because I ran into problems the first time I did this. And I'm not going to show you what the problems are online, but I will tell you that often when you use the intersect faces tool, if you have strange curves, really weird curves, and certainly we do here, we got things at complex angles and different types of curves intersecting each other and so on and so forth. You often end up with missing lines and missing faces that you have to fix, you have to fill in. And sometimes that's a very difficult task, and you end up never being able to solve it and having to start over. The trick to get around that is to take this and scale it up by about a factor of 10. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to scale it up by a factor of 10. And by the way, I'm going to scale it up and then I'm going to scale it back down. So I want to remember the grip that I use to scale it with, because I want to scale it the same way coming down that I do scaling up. So I'm going to use this grip right here that says uniform scale about opposite point. I'm going to remember that grip, and I'm going to scale this up a factor of 10. And I will get my whole image back here. There's my little guy down there. And what I want to do now is explode this leg. And then choose that rung and this rung. And I want to intersect faces, not with model. Do not use with model, but with selection. I'll show you why you don't want to use with model. You notice these are in the model and they're intersecting down here, this leg. So I don't want that. I only want the things I've selected to be included in the intersect faces. So I'm going to use Edit, Intersect Faces with Selection. I'll wait a minute until the blue disappears. Now I've got some lines here. And I want to inspect it to make sure I don't have any missing lines. Hopefully I won't, because I blew this up a factor of 10 to avoid that problem. But I want to inspect it really close, make sure I got lines all the way around there. No missing lines. And it looks like I don't have missing lines, on that one at least. Let me look at this one. It looks like all the lines are there. Okay, next thing I want to do is, if I were to remove these rungs right now, since they were components that when we used the Intersect Faces tool, remember this was the only primitives here. These were components. When you use the Intersect Faces tool, the only place you get lines is where a face intersects another face. So you get these lines right here. But there are no internal lines that were generated by the Intersect Faces tool. And therefore, I need to somehow get the internal lines to finish the mortise. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to explode these two legs, connecting their primitives with the legs' primitives. I'm sorry, I'm going to explode these two rungs to get their primitives to connect with the legs' primitives. And then I'm going to get rid of the pieces of the rungs that I don't want. So let's just do that now. Let's explode the rungs. All right, now one of the problems is that I now have primitives on at least two different layers because of the explode tool. When you explode a component that's on a layer, it automatically takes its primitives and puts it on that layer. Well, we know that we always want primitives to be on layer 0. So the next thing I'm going to do is select all primitives, bring in the entity info box. Notice there's nothing here because the box doesn't know what to tell you because things are spread across more than one layer. But I'm going to put them all on layer 0. Now notice this is layer 0 as well. Okay, now I've got everything on layer 0. I'm going to use the select tool. I'm going to look at this from the front view. Use the select tool, and this from the right to left, and select like that. And now I've selected everything that is outside the mortise, and I'll delete it. Now I still have a face here. Let's see what happens if I delete these faces. Okay. Now let's see what I've got. I have the inside of the mortise. And it looks pretty clean, although I did notice over here one minor problem right there. There's a hole. I was hoping to avoid all of this situation by blowing this thing up by a factor of 10, but I didn't quite avoid all of them, so I'm going to fix that hole by just putting this line back in. Now I've got to reverse faces here to get this face to look like the rest of the faces. I can't just select it because it'll select the whole face. What I have to instead do is turn on Hidden Geometry. Now I can select just that face and reverse just that face. Now that I've done that, I can turn Hidden Geometry back off, examine the inside of this again, and notice that I have to reverse the faces of the whole thing, the whole insides. Well, I'll do it in two parts. I'll get the back, reverse that face, and I will get the cylinder and reverse that face. Now I've got everything the way I want it. I can go work on this one. I'll do the same thing here that I did with the other one. Delete that. Come over here. Get rid of the faces. Be careful when you select these lines to get rid of them that you don't select one of the inside surfaces and mess those up. Delete them. Because if you do that and you don't notice it, you'll be in big trouble. Alright, this one looks really clean. Looks like I don't have any missing surfaces. So I probably saved myself a lot of work by blowing this up by a factor of 10. All I have to do now is reverse the surfaces. Remember, this mortise, the walls of this mortise, this back surface and these walls, the cylinder here, were part of the rung, and they were inside the rung. That's why their face color's wrong, because we used the rung to create those faces. And those faces were the insides of the rung. Now they're the outside of the leg. So we have to reverse the faces. All right, now we have our leg. Let's look at it from front ISO. We're going to select the whole thing. And before we make it a component, I'm going to shrink it again. And so I'll use the scale tool. I'm going to use this same grip, come down a factor of 10. So I'll type in 0.1, enter. Deselect the grips. And now I have my leg. I'm going to make it a component. Now this time I'm not going to call it leg. I'm going to call it leg A, because my two front legs have to be different. And I've got the bounding box problem again, but I'll fix that later. Actually, let me fix it now. Why wait? Let me fix it now. Let me bring my axes back in here. And I'll bring the X-ray tool in. Right click on this and say, you can't see it here. Oh yeah, you can. Change axes. Oh, I'll select this point here, where the intersection of the axes and the top of the leg. I'll go to the intersection of the axes and the bottom of the leg, which is also the origin in this case. And then I've got to select my green axis, and I'll do that. There we go. Now I fixed that. All right, so now we have our component here. That's going to be the same as this leg here. So one thing I can do right now is get rid of this component. Select this one. And copy that component using the rotate copy tool 180 degrees. So now I have a leg A here, leg A, a leg A there, and just a leg here. This doesn't have the holes in it yet. I'm going to do this exactly the same way that I did this one. So what I'll do is I'll select these two rungs now. I'll copy those 180 degrees. And I'll select this rung, this leg, and this rung, and I'll blow them up just like I did the last one. Scale them up. Let me get rid of the axes here for the moment. We don't need it right at the moment. And I'll blow these up. Scale them up a factor of 10. Select this leg. I'll explode it. I'll add to the selection these two rungs. I'll do the intersect with selection, not model. Wait a moment. All right, now I need to inspect things very carefully. Make sure I've got all my lines. I go around here looking. Zoom in as much as I have to be sure I have all the lines. It's these lines right here that I'm inspecting, where the rung and the leg intersect. I want to make sure that I got all the lines I need there. Now I'll inspect this one. If there's a line missing, it'll be very obvious. All right, now that I know that I have all the lines, I can explode the rungs. And now I'll look front on. Using my select tool in this fashion. Well, I couldn't get all of it, but I'll add the rest of it to it. There we go. Delete that, and while I'm at it, might as well go over and do this one too. Use the select tool right to left. Make sure I don't get any part of the leg in there. And we'll start deleting. Get rid of the faces first. And then it'll be obvious which lines I have to get rid of. Make sure I don't select any of the back surfaces. Inspect this one real close before I go on to the other one. Make sure I have no missing faces. Missing faces will be pretty obvious. All right, let's go do this one. By the way, the Pro version of SketchUp will allow you to do this in one click. Create the mortises in one click. But for 500 bucks, you only have to do a few extra clicks and you have the same result. Let's inspect this really close. Okay, now I got to reverse the faces. Oops, that's not going to work. I better zoom in there. All right, now I have my leg. And I've got to zoom it down again. So I'll select it. Use the same grip. Come back down, 0.1. Now notice my leg didn't come back to the same place, and that's because when I blew it up, I had the rungs in the picture. Now I don't have the rungs, so it didn't put it back in the same place, but it's the appropriate size. All I have to do to put it back in the same place is I'll bring the seat in. I'm going to select all the primitives here, zoom in real close, pick one of these points, one of these intersections right there, pick the whole thing up like that, move it over here, and there we go. Just put it in place like that. Now, I might want to check with the axis to make sure it's in place. And you can see, if you look at the axis, that looks right. That looks right. So I've got it in place. Let's get rid of the axes. Let's make this a component. Call it leg B. And while I'm at it, I might as well fix the bounding box. I'll need the axis back to do that. And I'll need the X-ray tool. Let me get rid of the seat. And the X-ray tool. I'll sit, whoops. Let's just say, I'm having trouble here. I'm not sure why. Okay, change axis. And I'll choose the intersection of the top surface and the axis, and the intersection of the bottom surface and the axis. And then I need a green axis right there, and I've fixed my bounding box. Let's get rid of X-ray and the axes. And now this leg here, which is still a leg, notice that's still a leg. I've got to get rid of that and replace it with this one. The old trick, use the rotate copy tool with the control key, 180 degrees. Now that's in place. So you can see now, I have my mortises for the rungs. Got them in all the legs. I now need to replace the legs that I exploded. This is the last time I think I'll have to do this. I'll use the copy tool. Okay. Now we have the legs, we have the rungs, and they're complete. The rungs, I have a front rung A. I've got to change this. Well, let me make sure I know which one's the front and back. All right, this should be front rung A. Front rung A. This should be back rung A. This should be right rung B. And left rung B. They're on the rungs layer, and that's all cool. This should be back leg A, back leg B, it's on the legs layer, front leg A, on the legs layer, front leg B, on the legs layer. I think I already did this one. Oh, but I didn't put it on the legs layer. Okay, so now if we make the legs come and go, that all works. Make the rungs come and go, that all works. And we'll bring the seat back for the moment. Okay, now what we want to do with the seat is, first of all, we want to find the center of it. Well, that's real easy. The center will be a line that's perpendicular to the blue axis and goes through this center point. So I'll just click on the blue axis and I'll make it go through that center point. Now I want to draw the outline of the seat cover. And I'm going to kind of fudge a seat cover here. And here's how I'm going to do it. And it's really a fudge. A seat cover is kind of a plastic thing maybe, or a canvas thing or something. But here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to pick a line, pick a point up on this line here. I'm going to come out more than 13 inches. Let me get rid of the entity info box. I'm going to come out more than 13 inches. Let's call it 15. I don't know what's causing me problems here, but let's just come out there. I'll come down to this line along the blue axis and on that line. Come over to the center and back up. That just gives me a surface to draw on. So now I'll go to the front view. And I'm really going to fudge this. First of all, I'm going to draw the material that's going to cover this a 1/16 of an inch thick. And I'm going to start 3/16 of an inch up from here. So first of all, I'll use the tape measure tool. Let me look at this from the ISO view. Let me take the tape measure tool and go up 3/16 of an inch. And I've got a construction point there. So now let's look at it from the front view. Oh no, what I'll do, I'll come out here. From that point, I'll come out along the red 1/16 of an inch. And I'll come up right there. Now I'm going to find the center and come up an inch. Right there, that's my inch. And now I want to draw a curve. And I'm going to use the new Bezier curve. This is a Ruby script that you can download from the extensions warehouse, which I'll show you in a moment. But let me just use this tool for a second. I'm going to come up here, click there once. Now I'm going to click there. All right, now I want to edit this. So I select it and I say Edit Bezier Curve. And I want to take this first guy and move him in a little bit. I'll take this one. I should be doing this from the front view so you can see what I'm doing. When you use that tool, you have 2 points. And what you want to do is you want to get each point to sort of be tangent. In other words, I want this line to be tangent to this line almost. So if I can actually bring this out like this. Although I don't like that shape too much, what I might do is bring this one in a little bit. That looks more natural to me. Now I've lost where this one is. And that one I'll bring down a little bit. Now I've got a good shape that I like. All right. Now if I look at this from the ISO view, I've got to complete this by drawing a line here to this point and then down to this point. Now I've got that completed. All right, let me show you where you can get this Bezier tool. In 2014, if you go to Toolbar, and assuming you have this, we'll go to the toolbars, select Warehouse, and then you get this tool set. And on the end of this tool set, it says Extensions Warehouse. If you click that, that will take you to a list of all the extensions you can get. Well, not all of the extensions. There are more other places on the internet, but that's a huge library of extensions. And it happens to have this Bezier tool, which is a very nice, simple Bezier tool. So, okay, let's look at this from the front. I now want to get rid of my drawing board here, so I'll just select this. And select that, get rid of it. Get rid of the seat for the moment. Let's see what I have here. I have this little construction point which I can get rid of. I'll use, there we go. Notice the face that I have. All right, now I need to use the follow me tool, but I'm going to need a path. So I got to get a line back here. I'll get the 6 1/4 inch line back that I had before, and I erased somewhere along the way. I'll draw myself a circle. Whoops, I don't want the rotate tool. I want the circle tool. Draw a circle. I'll choose the face of the circle. The follow me tool. All right, now I got my seat cover, but I have to change the outside surface. And I need to make that a face, or component. And at the moment I'll call it seat cover. Now on the face, I need to put some tacks. And so what I'm going to do, you notice there's some faces here I can draw on. Remember that circles in SketchUp are really just a series of straight lines. And so when you extrude them, you get a series of surfaces. So we're going to use that fact to draw our buttons right there. So let's use the tape measure tool and pick one of these surfaces. I'll pick this one. We'll find the center point. And I'll draw a circle up along the blue axis. I'll make it, I guess, a 1/4 inch radius. Okay, now I'm going to draw a line from here to here, out along the green axis, a 1/4 inch. Down along the blue until it comes back to that axis. That should be at that point. It should be 1/2 inch. Then to there and to here, and now I have a surface to draw on. I'm going to use the arc tool. Depending on what I want my button to look like. If I want it to look like a half circle, I can come out to here. If I want it to look somewhat less, I'm going to say 3/16. Make it look like that. And the other thing I'm going to do is make it a quarter of that. So now I'm going to erase a bunch of stuff. And I think I'll get rid of this face. Now I can choose this path and the Follow Me tool, and notice I get a dome without a top. Oh, that's the old problem of these faces are too small. So what I have to do, let me step back one. I'll select all of this. I'll blow it up. I got to remember the grip I use when I blow it up. I am going to blow it up, by the way, with the Control key. No, I'm not. I'm going to blow it up with uniform scale about opposite point and use this grip. I'm going to blow it up a factor of 10. Now I'll select the path, Follow Me tool. I got the dome I want. I'll select the whole thing. Notice I don't have, well, I guess maybe I do. I do have a surface in the back. Okay. I'll select the whole thing. And bring it down 0.1. And it didn't put it back on the same point, but let's see if I can fix that. With a little luck, I can find the center here. It's right there. And that plus the X-ray tool might let me find where those points cross, right there, the intersection of those construction lines. Okay, now I've got it centered. I trust. Let me just make sure that, yeah, I got it centered. All right. All right, now in the normal center, or in a normal circle, I have 24 surfaces, or 6 per quadrant. 6 into 90 goes 15. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the Rotate Copy tool down here. I'm going to click at the center like I've always done. Come out, click, and rotate with the Control key 15 degrees. And that places one over here. Now I need 24 of them. I already have one, so I'll say 23x. And there you go. Now I have all of them I need. Now what I'm going to do at this point, I'm going to make them part of the seat cover. Let me get rid of X-ray tool. Let me get rid of hidden geometry. Oh, I got the wrong color on these surfaces. So in order to fix that, I'm going to go back and reverse color. Now while I've got that chosen, I'm going to copy it. "15 degrees, 23 times. There we go. Now I'm going to go back and explode the seat. Now I'll choose the seat and make it a component again, this time with the buttons. I'll replace the one I originally had. I'll bring in the seat itself. Oh, big mistake, big mistake. Let me go back. I called this a seat. I wanted to call it a seat cover. So by using the undo tool to get me out of trouble, I'm replacing the seat cover. Now if I bring the seat in, there we go. I've got my seat. Let's get rid of all the construction lines. Get rid of this circle. See what we have here. There's your seat and seat cover all tacked on there. All right, that ends this part 5. In fact, it ends the whole Shaker Stool series. I hope you've learned something and had fun along the way. I have. I'm going to save my model, and I'll see you next week for the next blog entry. Have a good day.